In the freezing rain of ancient Anatolia, a young king realized he was entirely cut off. It is 333 BC, and the Persian Empire, an ancient superpower possessing seemingly limitless wealth and manpower, has mobilized a massive host to crush an upstart Macedonian invader. The men standing in this coastal mud are physically ruined. They are exhausted, thousands of miles from home, and completely surrounded by hostile territory. King Darius III has moved his forces to sever the young conqueror's supply lines, trapping him against a massive mountain range with no route for retreat. By every established rule of ancient warfare, Alexander's campaign, his army, and his life are destined to end on this bloody plain. Darius ensured the psychological weight of the trap hit first. Descending onto the coast at the town of Issus, he captured Alexander's former field hospital, slaughtering the sick and severing the hands of the survivors to send a horrifying message. When the news reached the Macedonian camp, the realization landed like a physical blow. The enemy host was not waiting in front of them. It was directly behind them, permanently blocking their route home. Panic rippled through the ranks. The soldiers were hungry, completely out of supplies, and terrified by rumors that the Persian forces outnumbered them by at least 3-1. Yet the 23-year-old commander displayed an absolute chilling resolve. He ordered his exhausted men to turn the entire column around and march back north to face the behemoth. Upon reaching the coast, Alexander observed that the narrowness of the plain would prevent the vast Persian numbers from being brought to bear at once. In his eagerness to spring the snare and annihilate the Macedonians, Darius had made a fatal miscalculation, one that would cost him his empire. This view of the coastline demonstrates the specific physical constraints of the battlefield, a highly restricted plain sliced by the freezing waters of the Pinaris River. The mountains and sea acted as unbreakable walls, locking both armies into a choke point. The battlefield lacked the width for the Persian army to fan out. Darius neutralized his numerical advantage. Most of his men were stuck behind their own lines, unable to fight. Alexander knew that in a constricted space, the total size of the army behind a strike matters far less than the weight and ferocity of the strike itself. The geographical trap designed to crush the Macedonians had leveled the playing field, forcing both sides into a brutal head-on collision. The battle opened with a terrifying thunder on the beach. Thousands of Persian heavy cavalry charged down the shoreline, crashing violently into the Macedonian left flank to roll up the line. In the center, the heavily armored Macedonian phalanx waded across the freezing river into vicious combat. Fighting for survival in the muddy water, their defensive lines began to buckle. Alexander bypassed the chaos of the wings, focusing his attention on the Persian center. There, positioned in the absolute center on a towering chariot, was King Darius. He was flanked by his elite royal guard, the Apple Bearers, representing the heavily armored core of the empire. Alexander understood that the entire Persian political structure relied on the physical body of its king. If the king falls, the empire dies. He deployed his elite companion cavalry into a tightly packed wedge formation. This created a highly concentrated human spearhead designed to shatter whatever stood in its path. He abandoned the traditional war of attrition, gambling his army's entire existence on a single targeted assassination run. With Alexander at the tip of the spear, the cavalry wedge hit the riverbank and ripped a gaping hole straight through the enemy infantry. Without hesitating, they wheeled inward, fully exposing the flank of the royal center. The momentum was terrifying. Alexander carved a bloody path through the elite guards, hunting the King of Kings. Through the dust, Darius watched this unstoppable force closing the distance. In that decisive moment, the ruler of the greatest empire on earth lost his nerve. Darius abandoned his royal chariot. Throwing off his cloak to shed his identity, he mounted a horse and fled for his life into the mountains. The ripple effect was instantaneous. The sight of their god-king running from the field shattered Persian morale completely, turning an organized line into a panicked stampede that choked their own escape route. Alexander dismantled the greatest superpower on earth in a single afternoon. By weaponizing geography and executing a maneuver of absolute audacity, he proved that in the face of tactical precision, overwhelming size is merely a larger target.